Hi and welcome back to another video of JPlay. I am Marcus and today I'm going to start my solo playthrough of Kreel Manor, the dungeon crawl card game designed by Tristan Hall. And this game is set in the world of Kilforth, so if you know games like Gloom of Kilforth, you get the idea. But it's also using some of the mechanics of Veilwraith, though I think it's some kind of a blend, even though this is, I think, by far exceeding, let's say, the contents and the experience that you get from Veilwraith. And that's at least in my book. Here you really have a ton of replayability and also tied very, very closely to a lot of, let's say, individual storylines. So you have a book of fables. Every character has their own story arc to some extent. So yeah, I think I'm really thrilled giving this one a try. Tristan was kind enough to provide me the review copy here, so thanks so much for that. He also gave me the playing mat here, the neoprene one. That's really great and amazing, works very, very well. And yeah, ultimately, I decided to play as the Knight Raven for no real reason. In a normal RPG kind of game, I typically also tend to play a ranger kind of character, a rogue kind of character, basically with some of the ranged weapons that maybe was driving some of these. There is a nice backstory in all of these characters. The base game comes with 3 characters. From what I know, there are 2 expansions, basically expansion characters, which you can add to the game that again change the overall, let's say, experience quite a bit. Quite honestly, I already prepared the skill deck. I already have chosen my starting card here. That's from her, I believe, heroes or class skill deck. From what I know, Raven's Tenacity, draw 2 skills, reveal 1 shadow, seems really helpful, getting more skills into your hand and revealing those shadows. And in case you're wondering why I'm using terms like seems, I have never played this game before, so I'm learning the game with you. So really expect me to do a ton of very, very stupid gameplay decisions, and also expect, let's say, some more goofs than you already are accustomed to if you're watching my channel for quite a while or not. So yeah, but I am still really very much excited. This game is pretty much played as some sort of a campaign. A campaign always, I believe, consists of 5 adventures which you have to go through. The first adventure in a campaign is always the same, the 5th one as well, from what I understand, but in between things could branch out in various directions. I believe all 3 adventures, 2, 3 and 4, have all 3 different adventures each. So there alone there is already, let's say, a good amount of replayability. And if your brain works like mine, you will forget anyway after you have played this game once, right? So yeah, I have basically set up the starting location, the Regal Gateway to Kreel, which is a dungeon. It's fortified. It comes with some flavor here. The entrance to Kreel Manor is a majestic portal, wrought of weathered stone and veiled in ivy's embrace, bearing witness to centuries of lore. It tells us how much sneak we need in order to overcome this. This is always number of heroes or number of players multiplied by 2, so we need 2. I'm playing alone in this game. Again, with the base game you can play up to 3 players. If you're adding 1 or basically both of the heroes, expansion heroes, then you can play this up to 4 players cooperatively. In order to win this game, we have to achieve 3 things. First of all, we have to explore all 4 locations. 2 of these are random. The last one we kind of know. We can always check the last one in case we are wondering, but because I don't really know the game, I'm letting myself surprise, at least to some extent. We have to beat 5 plot cards that is here in the threat deck, and the threat deck is kind of a staged thing. So in each of the 5 stages we have, I don't know, 5-6 cards or so, and among those there will be 1 plot card each. So it's not possible that we will be able to defeat all 5 plots in the first 5 cards. That's basically what I'm trying to say here. And last but not least, we also have to defeat all foes that are also part of this threat deck here. And in this very first adventure, luckily we only have to overcome 1 of those foes. That's basically what the adventure card tells you here to do. Again, I will cover this when we get there. So that's basically how we are going to win the scenario. We can lose the scenario simply by running out of so-called spirit here. That's our only, let's say, currency in respect to this is life points, this is our hope, whatever you want to see it is. So if we're running out of this, then we have to restart that adventure. We also have to draw a wound card for that, which will make our travels, let's say, much more difficult. If we fail one adventure 3 times in a row, we basically then have 3 wounds, and then we will automatically pass over to the next adventure. But as soon as you have or gain your 5th wound, basically, then it's campaign over, and then you have to restart the overall campaign. Within the campaign, you will upgrade your hero, you will have upgrade cards in this deck here, you will get assets and whatnot. So really, it's a very cool journey actually, and yeah, let's see how far we can get. Unfortunately, the game doesn't really come with a player aid. There is a round summary in here, but for whatever reason, why, Tristan, why didn't you put this at the back of your rulebook here? And you have 2 rulebooks. You have the storybook and you have the rulebook here. And both, I mean, they have really beautiful artwork, don't get me wrong, but really having these round overviews at the back of these books, that's really where they need to be. But yeah, okay, I digress. Anyway, the first thing that we do during any given round is our delve step. And the first thing in the delve step is to read out the story card, if any. And I think before we do that, and I almost forgot, we have basically a setup story to read, which is B50. Let's do that right now before we are jumping into the story step. Feel free to skip over that. Maybe I will leave a timestamp so you know where you have to jump to. Within the hallowed chambers of the Shadow Council, a solemn assembly is convened to deliberate on a perilous mission ahead, to infiltrate Kreel Manor and hold the sinister machinations of Arcturus Blackwood, the Lord of Kreel Manor. The task is monumental. Dismantle Lord Kreel's nefarious supply chain, sow discord among his burgeoning allies, and thwart his insidious plans of raising an unstoppable army. As the council orchestrates the formation of the expeditionary team, each member is carefully chosen for their unique skills and strength. The strategy unfolds, and smashing the Lord's organizational successes become the paramount objective. Separating and confusing his growing armies, turning former allies against each other, and disrupting the cohesive force that Blackwood seeks to wield are central to the mission. The council endeavors to bring the Lord to his knees and end his meddling beyond the veil. The safety of the realm rests in the hands of his cover team, tasked with unraveling the malicious plans woven inside the walls of Kreel Manor. In these shadowed halls, a resolute conviction takes shape. The mission is clear, the path treacherous, and the destiny of all lies in the success of this clandestine endeavor. The Kreel family were once a well-respected house, although their bloodline was kept to itself where possible. One errant affair led to the birth of Arcturus Blackwood, a pariah who was rejected by the family for his tainted blood and for his interest in the dark arts. His was a lifelong quest to reclaim what he thought was rightfully his by overthrowing his so-called family and instigating himself as the keeper of Kreel Manor. And so you find yourself stepping through the looming archway of the sinister citadel known as Kreel Manor in a courtyard veiled with spectral hush. The path to the Great Hall remains elusive, its entrance obscured by the shifting shadows that leap with an eerie life of their own. As you venture deeper into the dimly lit corridors, an ominous foreboding lingers, and the echoing silence heightens the apprehension of the impending encounter with the Goblin Chief, the first of the Lord's champion, concealed inside the labyrinthine depths of his malevolent estate. So now we get some more instructions here as shown on the adventure location card. Set aside the Worm King Goblin's threat group. I did that already. These goblins are the Goblin Chief's retinue and may show up later in the adventure. To learn more about the Lord of Kreel Manor, read B71 now. Otherwise, begin your adventure. And this is where I think I will stop with a spoiling, so we will definitely now begin our adventure here. So jumping back to our round summary, we have in fact a story card waiting for us in the threat area. That's basically part of the setup, and again each of those heroes do have their own little story deck, and the very first story that we have to reveal right now is the Sneaky Entrance. In the veiled shroud of night you linger at the threshold of the ominous fortress, draped in shadows that conceal every subtle movement. The mission, fraught with peril, commands you to infiltrate the manor's profound recesses, rescuing the captive Contessa ensnared against her will. A crucial decision about her fate plagues you. Noiselessly you weave into the dark, your deft fingers poised to navigate locked portals and concealed pitfalls. The corridor before you stretches into obscurity, harboring untold legends. Now we have to take our very first decision of the game. Two paths unfurl. Proceed with restrained prowess, advancing deeper into the manor's core, which means we are later on adding story card, and basically 3 in this case, or tune your senses to the night, listening for hints of unseen sentinels, eavesdropping on the clandestine conversations of guards as you continue your exploration of the manor. Honestly, to, let's say, roleplay this all a little bit, I think we will go for the second one, because we are somewhat of a sneaky character, and again, ultimately this means we are picking out adventure card number 2 here, and we'll set it aside because it will not matter in this very first adventure of the game. This will indeed appear in adventure 2 relatively late in the story, but for now I will set it aside. And yeah, if I will do another video on this, so if there is interest from you, then it's basically up to you to vote it up, and then we might go into adventure 2 if I will be successful. But yeah, for now we will basically remove this card from the game. It will never come back, but it's also not a legacy game, so we are not tearing it apart either. Next, we would activate any delve abilities. As far as I know, we don't have any one of those. And again, expect a lot of arrows and goose in this one. I will certainly forget stuff. And then we would explore the location. If active location has sneak token equal to its sneak, it is defeated. That's basically how you win the game. Ultimately, this happens at the start of your turn in case you have enough sneak tokens on that one, which basically means then we would be winning if we also meet all the other requirements, right? Defeating the foes and getting rid of those plots. You get the idea. That's basically the victory check. Active location effects. I believe we don't have any active location effects, so we can skip over this one too. And then we are already moving into the threat step of the round, which means similar to games like Legendary Aliens or X-Files, we are bringing out a new threat card into the shadows. It will remain face down, so in order to get basically reveal it, we either have to wait until it's moving into the active threat area, or we can spend some sneak here in order to reveal. So again, very similar to Legendary, the Aliens one. And that's already that. Again, we are not bringing out any more cards into the threat area. Once one card is here and then is bumped into that, then we will be seeing some active stuff happening. So I think we might have 1, 2, 3 rounds to prepare ourselves a little bit. Then we are drawing another skill card, so we simply do that, easy as that. What do we get? Scout Ahead. That's not one of our class abilities, that's one of the standard hero abilities, so you can set up your deck. There's a little bit of a deck construction basically, which you do at the start of each campaign. I followed the recommendation to have 1 card each in my deck, and then from there you can then get rid of skills when we survive the adventure, that is. So this one here is fast, and yeah, this reveals 1 shadow. Not terrible actually, but fast doesn't do anything for us because we are not playing a multiplayer game. In a multiplayer game, a fast ability allows you to interrupt basically. And then it's finally time to play the game. Play in any order. Play skills, activate abilities, tilt 1 action, or use 1 action. So this is, again, these two are relatively similar to Veilwraith actually. So we get to choose what we are going to do. Again, we can play any number of skills, and there was a reason why I've chosen Raven's Tenacity here as my starting skill card. We are going to play this card, which allows us to draw 2 skills, and we will reveal 1 shadow. That is nice. So this is our very first card we are drawing, Silent Approach. add 3 sneak to a sneak action. If played on a shadow, this card instead adds sneak 5. Okay, that is really nice actually. So let's see what we can do about this. And here we have the rapid sprint. Fast, okay, it's also a fast ability, but it doesn't matter. Lose 1 influence power to deal 2 sneak damage to a location. That would be pretty cool actually, because this would actually allow us to more or less explore the very first location. We are playing a single player game, so all that it needs is basically 2 sneak on the Regal Gateway to Kreel actually. Okay, that is already interesting. But of course, we must not forget we also get to reveal 1 shadow. And I believe in this case, let's go for the most expensive one. That's what you do in these kind of games. And okay, this is already our very first threat of the game. It's an undead, it's a mana servant. Again, these have been shuffled into the deck really randomly, so they can come up in any order. And in order to get rid of the mana servant, we need either 7 fight, wow, 3 influence, which is possible I believe, or 7 sneak. Okay, that is terrible, but it also comes with a reveal effect, and this says shield, and shield really sucks because yeah, basically the next time this threat takes damage, block all of that damage and discard this status instead. So I could really go for a low level damage here, for example, just to get rid of the shield. And I think ultimately that's what I want to do sooner or later. Anything else I'm missing here? Defeat at 1 threat. Yeah, awesome. Okay, that is amazing. This thing here means if this lingers around in the threat area, it will deal 2 spirit damage to us. So the more we have in there, and also very similar to the strike deck in Aliens Legendary, yeah, you will take wounds over time, and yeah, if you're out of wounds or out of spirit, then yeah, you have lost this adventure. But okay, it is still our go. We can now use a tilt action basically in order to power up our 3 main feats here. So we have a fight feat, influence and sneak, and by tilting it, more or less rotating it 45 degrees, we would be placing one of these dice on top of this. And I think that is something I may want to consider doing. So we're adding another dice. And while it's tilted, we cannot use it for an action, but next round it will reset, and then it has ultimately a strength of 1 + 2. So 2 or 3 influence power, 3 influence attack, basically however you want to put it. And I think that's actually a very cool thing to consider, because with that we are already able to get rid of that mana servant up there. Not sure how speedy we have to go through these things, quite honestly, but I think we can't have them linger in the threat area endlessly, because they will keep doing damage to us. So I think ultimately that's something that we need to do anyway. On the other hand, we can use the rapid sprint here to spend that 1 influence that we have just gained, so lose 1 influence power, so basically removing that die again, to deal 2 sneak damage to a location. And again, this would get rid of the Regal Gateway to Kreel. Okay, that is something I really need to get my head around actually. But before we make any crazy decisions, we are going to use a fight ability here. So we're using this one as an action. Basic dark, use fight action or draw 1 skill card. Again, we don't want to draw a skill card, we want to fight. It has a fighting point of 1, but we will assign it to the mana servant. It will give us a +2 actually, because we have our starless longbow, which gives us a +1 on our fight, and it also allows us, you can use abilities and actions against shadows. And that's exactly what we are doing here. But because it is shielded, the next time this threat takes damage, block all of that damage and discard the status card instead. So this is out of here, but now it's basically ripe for us to take it down. So this longbow of course goes back to our hand, but it also means that we have taken the majority of our actions so far. You can use 1 action and you can tilt 1 card. That's exactly what we do. We can still play skills like crazy, but again, yeah, we could play this one skill, the rapid sprint, to get rid of the regal gateway to Kreel, but it also comes with an influence action, so which says, okay, influence 3, act boldly, announce your arrival, deal 1 influence damage to all threats. We can do that once per game, basically. That's what this limit 1 says. So thinking about that, we could still do that. We can act. Act is not really an action. That's a little bit, I think, confusing, but yeah, ultimately you get behind it. And in fact, we do have the 3 influence we need. It's 1 plus 2. That's the 3 which we need in order to act. We can only do that once per game, and this would allow us to bring, for example, 1 influence damage also to this fella. Here I'm not 100% sure it says all threats. I think we are allowed to put this onto threats that are in the shadows, unless they are revealed, but I believe with our bow, I think we should be able to use that anyway, right? That's the idea. So I think let's do that. We are going to act, which means we're adding 1 influence damage to each threat. It's a little bit of a waste, but yeah, we will do it anyway. We don't have to spend any of those. We simply have done this. And this then also means we have to place one of these, let's say, generic counters on top of the regal gateway, which basically shows we have used that limit ability here. And I think then we may want to actually play our skill here, the rapid sprint. We will lose 1 influence power here respectively from our influence. And here it doesn't matter if it's tilted or not. At least that's how far I understand. We can simply not tilt it again. We cannot use the action again. And this one says to deal 2 sneak damage to a location, which is then enough in our next delve phase to get rid of it or fully explore it. Nice. In theory, we still have 2 skills we could play. So for example, revealing that 1 shadow here. And I mean, why not? Let's simply do that so we know what is coming, right? And so we are also playing this skill. And this allows us to flip over this one. And that's a deep dwarf. Does it have a thing? No, it has a delve ability. Deal 1 fight damage to a goblin threat. Oh, they kind of actually help us right now. And this one also, if we defeated the deep dwarf trader, we will regain 1 spirit. Okay, that isn't really too bad. Deal 1 fight damage to a goblin threat. Right now we don't have a goblin threat out, but maybe stuff will be coming. Okay, maybe that was a good idea to reveal that, but it doesn't matter where this dwarf is, either in the shadows or in the threat areas. I believe all of these abilities kick in. Okay, then I think we call it for an action phase or play phase. We are moving into the spirit threats attack. Lose spirit equal to spirit cost on every threat in the threat area minus any block. We have neither, so we can skip over this, and we are moving into the end phase. We are discarding all played skill cards, something I have done slightly incorrectly. When we play the skills, they will basically play it in front of us, and at the end of the round we will move them to the discard pile. It doesn't really matter. Skill limit, play discard down to 6 skills if necessary. We have 1 skill left, so that is fine too. Actions and threat resets, rotate them to upright. Easy as that. And one thing I forgot to mention, whenever you are using an action, not tilting an action, it has to be reset to position 1 basically. But because the fight card we were using was already on position 1, it stayed where it is. Apologies for that. And then we are moving into the next round, beginning with a delve phase. Okay, there are no story cards out there. We do have a delve ability, which is this one up here. Unfortunately, we don't have any goblin threats out here yet. Again, they will help us. I really like that. And then we are exploring our location, which we will absolutely do and allowed to do because we have 2 sneak on it. So 2 versus 2, that's enough. So we are basically getting rid of our very first location here. It's out of here, and now we are revealing the next location. Here I really don't know what it is. There are really a ton of, let's say, standard locations which you're shuffling into the location deck here, and again, I have no clue what has been picked. Here we have Ambry's Blood Infirmary, it seems, as an influence 3 action. So this has to be an action, it seems. Confiscate healing barbs and bandages. Heal 1 spirit, limit 2. Okay, we can do that twice actually. Well, this is something that will help us, and this is how this game really feels highly thematic, really an adventure game. I like that a lot. It's not so easy to defeat. We need now 4 sneak. And the good thing is you don't have to beat all of these with one single blow. Again, as I did that with a mana servant, we are adding these wound tokens basically, and then once you have done it, then it's enough. Sometimes I think there might be abilities which make them quote unquote heal or so, but right now we are not worrying about that. That's a good card. We can basically heal that. Next, we are moving into the threat phase. So we are bringing out a new one. Right now, this is still okay. We still haven't anything in our threat area, and those deep dwarf traders are not so easily defeatable, because you see that we need 5, 7 or 6. So I think in this case, we may really need to up our fight ability rather sooner or later in order to get rid of those, right? Then we draw our next card, and guess what? It's the same thing that we started the game with. Raven's Tenacity. Draw 2 skills, reveal 1 shadow. That is really amazing. And I think that's basically us now anyway. So we get to play now. And I will totally play this one. First of all, we are drawing 2 more cards. For sure. Okay, Stealthy Subterfuge. Add 1 sneak damage to a sneak action, which is okay, I guess. And then we have the Hasty Strike. It's another faster. We can lose 1 spirit to deal 2 fight damage to 1 threat. Okay, that isn't terrible if we want to get rid of the Deep Dwarf Traders. Before we forget, let's also reveal 1 shadow card here. And I think, no, it's still another normal threat. There's no plot card yet out there. This is the Noble Guest. When we defeat, block any 1 non-foe threat this round. Okay, this isn't terrible at all. We get to heal when we get rid of her, and we only need 4 influence in order to take care of it. But we are more or less more of a sneaky hero, that is, so I'm not sure how. Yeah, I think that's something I really need to learn about this game strategy wise. Okay, I think we may want to stay on target and to get rid of the mana servant here. Again, normally you cannot interfere with anyone in the shadows, but this Starless Longbow allows exactly to do just that. You can use abilities and actions against shadows, which I think is very, very unique for the Night Raven. So let's do an influence action. The influence power is 2, which means we are adding 2 to the mana servant, that all that he needs. We don't need to defeat all 3 abilities. This will be different with the foe, but this is now enough to take care of the mana servant. It's out of here, it's going into the discard pile, but because we defeated it, we have to add another threat, unfortunately. But still, I think we want to advance the story, we want to get to the plots, so I think let's totally do that. This new threat, of course, will remain in the shadows, and it will remain hidden. And now we have to reset the influence actions here accordingly. So we can't tilt it, we can't use it this round, but I still think it was worth it. I think next we want to power up our fight value here by tilting it, which means we are adding 1 power die to that. So this is already taking care of our 3 standard actions here. Again, we can tilt once, we can use once, we can still act and whatnot. But unfortunately, unlike the Regal Gateway to Kreel, this is not an act ability. This is an actual action that we have to take. Of course, I could have also powered up my sneak, basically with tilting it, and then getting rid of Ambry's Blood Infirmary next round. But here I'm not so sure if rushing through those locations really is the best we can do right now, because it gives us something good actually to work with, and we can't win the game anyway before we have also met our foe and defeated them, and on top of this have gotten rid of all 5 plots that are still in the deck. So there's really still a lot going on in this game. So I think rushing through one of those doesn't really matter. Here again, we have used it to some extent. I think I felt okay. We could do that in a one single go actually. So I felt okay, but not so much anymore. I think we have to do some more threat control before we are really rushing through these locations here. But this also means, I believe, this is more or less the end of our play phase here, because yeah, this would help us for a sneak action, which is nice, but we are not taking a sneak action. Similarly here, and we would lose those. We would attach this to the sneak action, but any skill that we have played this round would be gone anyway, so it will not hang around. It's basically different to those power dice who will be there until we are spending those or losing them any other way. This one, yes, we could do that to deal 2 fight damage to 1 threat, but I think right now there is no reason to do that. Let's move into the end of round step. We are not over our hand size limit. There is nothing else. The only thing I guess we have to do is to unexhaust all of those cards, and then we are jumping into the next Del phase. As there is nothing going on in respect to the Del phase, we can directly jump into the threat phase. Again, we can't really progress our location. There are no story cards. There is no victory check. There are no ongoing active location effects. So no, we can directly jump into the threat step, which means we now have our first threat in the threat area, which means he will deal 1 damage to us at the end of every round. And right now there's no reason to get rid of him, quite honestly, because if he would kill the Deep Dwarf Trader here, he would give us 1 spirit back, but because we are fully healed and right now we can't go beyond our starting value here, I think it's rather pointless actually. So let's draw our card for this round. Witty Barb, deal 1 influence damage to 1 threat. Okay, why not? But what are we going to do now? We are moving into the play phase. Okay, let's see. I think we might be actually able to get rid of that dwarf next round by either tilting this or that. I think we also want to get rid of the noble guest sooner or later, but even though she will also give us something, no, we can block anyone non-foe for this round. That's also not terrible actually. So maybe I don't want to get rid of her too soon before again it makes sense actually. So I think we will, it's I guess a little bit wasteful. We will actually use this one here. We could actually scout, and again, scouting would allow us to reveal one of these shadow cards here, but I think they will come out anyway. Oh, but we could do it. I think we don't need to draw a card. No, we are going to scout. It's a scout 3. So we can now scout any of the 3 up here. Obviously, we are going for the most expensive one, which is this one here. And I think this is our very first plot of the game. I believe it's the last card actually that should have appeared. But okay, it is what it is. And this one now brings us closer to victory. We have some sealed barrels. It's a plot, it's an obstacle. These keywords, again, they might interfere with some of the other abilities. In order to get rid of it, we either need to, I think, break it open with a 5, or we can sneak our way. I don't know, we will have some, yeah, whatever. We will find other ways to open those barrels. And once we have defeated it, we have to choose an option. This is where we then have to read something in the book of, what is it called? Book of Fables. And this is again where this game is really so replayable. The next time you play, you may want to deliberately say, let's not open it up, let's smash it up. Or again, if you played through the first full campaign, you might have forgotten anyway. So stuff will happen, and then use an extra action if able. That's also very, very nice. We get basically an action back. I'm relatively certain it will not happen this round, but it could actually happen next round, because when you remember the 5 here, we already have 4 up here, and I think in order to manage that, we will take another tilt action in order to increase our power value here. So we can next time power up our attack to a 5. But oh no, I think we don't even need that actually, because we do have our Starless long bow. We don't have to spend all of the power dice here. We spend whatever we want to spend. And I believe, if I remember correctly, that is somewhat different to Veilwraith. Could be wrong though, not 100% sure. But I still now debating if I should actually, in fact, then rather tilt this one, which would then also help us getting rid of the noble guest next round. Yeah, let's do that instead. Sorry for my back and forth, but again, I'm learning the game. It's some kind of a puzzle and I'm already pumped and excited. I'm really enjoying this, a big deal here. Okay, nicely done. We could debate to play the Witty Barb here to deal 1 influence damage to 1 threat, but I think that is not really necessary, quite honestly. And all of the others right now, it's more or less the same, so I guess we are calling it a round, which means we are taking the first point of damage of the game, moving down from 20 down to 19. I think we can live with that, but yeah, I know, famous last words, but that is that. We are ending the round. We will straighten up all of these cards, and I think then moving back into the next stealth phase, which I believe again can skip over. Yeah, there is no goblin right now out here. I'm not sure when these are coming out. I'm relatively, maybe it's connected to the foe, but the foe is relatively deep here. It's in stack 4 of the threat deck, so it will definitely take some time, which means our noble guest is joining us here. We are moving all of these threats over, bringing out a new one, and I'm hopefully, I think I will not do a full playthrough this video today. I think after this round I might call it, just to give you some room to correct me where I was wrong. But I think with the next video I really should be able to speed through this game much more and should be actually able to complete this session. So at the end of this round we will be taking 2 damage here, but defeating those 2 will also give us, let's say, ways to heal ourselves. So I'm not overly concerned, at least not just yet. We will, of course, draw our card for this round, which is the Shadow Slip. Deal 1 influence damage to 1 threat and return 1 non-foe threat to the top of the threat deck face up. It retains any tokens and statuses. Yeah, that is pretty neat actually. But I think right now really no reason to do that, to use it, but good to have it in our back pocket. Then I think it's time to get after our first plot here. Again, we have 4 plus 1, it's 5, which is enough to brute force our way into those sealed barrels here. We have to spend the die here though, because again, it's not just having it, we have to actively spend it. Of course, we still have to flip it over. This will mean we are bringing all of those over, and I think overall this works out to be okay. The question now really is, what are we going to do with those barrels here? We can open, we can smash, or we can ignite. I think, and this is really cool because to me it somewhat feels there is one option for all of the base game heroes. Open really is, I think, our options, the sneaky one, the smash one. I think there is one of more of a fighter one, and there is a magician or wizard which does ignite. So I think for us we will totally go for B28 here. So, sorry for any spoilers here, but it is what it is. You thoroughly search the sealed barrels, brushing away skittering rats in your pursuit of hidden treasures. Beneath the layers of neglect, your fingers chance upon a valuable artifact. Its gleam a stark contrast to the inky chamber. In the midst of scattered remnants and scurrying shadows, a modest fortune emerges. Reward for your tenacity, draw 1 bronze asset. How cool is that? And here we oh gosh, here we have found a battle axe. Okay, we have to, or we can equip it actually. Deal 2 fight damage to 1 threat if we are flipping it, and usually you're unflipping those. There could be other effects which would allow us to do that. Problem really now is it has 1 hand. Of course, I was hoping for a helmet or for some boots or whatever, but I believe here I am not even able to equip that because this is a 2-handed weapon. That's, I think, the main reason why there are 2 of these symbols. I think This one should be actually hero. So I mean, it's a bow, right? It makes sense. And carrying a bow and a battle axe at the same time doesn't really make sense. That's really disappointing. So for now, we are adding it into one of our backpack slots here. But I'm really not certain if I think I could swap them out, I believe. I think this is something that you can do. Yeah, exactly. During the hero may swap assets to or from their pack slots now, if any. Okay, so we can actually do that later on. But if we decide to swap out any items, then we won't have the bow available for the next round to come. Okay, something to keep track of. Anyway, one thing I did notice though, we are also healing from that plot here. So we are moving back to 20, so pretty much fully healed. And it also says then use an extra action if able. And I think we are actually able. The question is, do we want to? I think not using that extra action now would be a waste, right? I mean, that's what we need to do. So yeah, we are using this action for an influence action. We are using it. It's 3 + 1. We have to spend it in order to come up with 4 influence points here to get rid of the noble Get. As lovely as she looks, unfortunately, we don't want her here. So when we defeat her, block any one non-foe threat this round. And I think block 1 means we are basically reducing the damage by 1, basically. That's how I understand. Usually, the ability says block X and block any 1. Not sure if we are completely blocking it, but I think it's a block 1. Here it doesn't matter too much, so we are adding it here, so we are not forgetting it. But we have taken care of the noble guest. She would heal us, but we are fully healed. I still take that. But then we also have to do the switcheroo here accordingly. So this is done. We will keep it next to our locations, I think, so we can keep track of how many plots we have gotten rid of. Then I think we are still allowed actually to do the tilt action here. And yeah, simply adding one just because we can, right? I still don't think we could play that actually. I think I want to play that because yeah, we are close to our hand limit anyway, and I think we can. Yeah, let's use it. So fast. Lose 1 spirit to deal 2 fight damage to 1 red. The question is, do we really want to do that actually? No, let's not do that. We can still hold on to 1 more card actually, so I think we are okay here. But this also means we are ending the play phase. He would do 1 damage to us, but because he was blocked, he's not gonna. And then we are ending the round, bringing everything back into an upright position, and that's the end of the round. And before we move into the next Del phase, I believe I will call it for today. Again, mainly to give you some room to correct me where I was wrong, and I'm nearly 100% certain that I was wrong, at least in one place. I didn't find it yet. I will most likely find something during editing. I will leave a note. If I missed anything besides that, then definitely let me know and I will try to correct that in my next video as much as I can. But I believe by now you really have seen more or less everything. Yes, we haven't seen the foe yet, but it's basically advanced threat. So with the next video, I really should be able to speed things up quite a bit so that we should be able to complete this very first adventure in my next video. At least that's what I'm trying to do. Before I forget, huge shout out to all of my patrons and channel members out there. You guys are truly amazing. Can't tell you how much I appreciate all your support. I really, really do. So if you want to support my little channel, you will find a link to my page on Patreon. You can join me directly here on YouTube. There is a thanks button for a donation. Like and subscribe, leave a comment. This also greatly helps the channel and is very much appreciated as well. By the way, it's Essen week this week, so I'm planning on doing, if I really am able, I'm having some household problems, mechanical natures actually, which I have to take care of. But if I will be able, I will do a quick live stream on my Essen list. And also one thing I want to notice, Tristan in the meantime released a trailer for his upcoming game Sublime Dark. And yeah, definitely go check it out. You can already subscribe to his Kickstarter page. Maybe I will even leave a link to the preview page here in the description of the video. And yeah, with that being said, hope to see you soon in one of my other videos. And yeah, until then, bye bye.